For decades, I've heard people get confused about equality. The beauty of equality is its simplicity. Everyone's equal. Nothing complex there at all. However, in real life, it never works like that. Why is it the women need special laws in regards to employment, protection from sexual harassment, domestic violence, and so forth? Why aren't both sexes protected? Why do different races, ethnic groups, and religions need special laws to protect them? Aren't we all equal? Why do our laws and regulations so often seem to have been written by George Orwell? Some animals are more equal than others. Here we can quite clearly see the collision of two modern liberal ideals, equality and identity politics. In most cases, identity politics will win, and the reason is cultural Marxism. So what is cultural Marxism? Put simply, it's any idea that comes from communism, which is also known as Marxism, that is in a place where there shouldn't be any communist ideas. Communism has two major ideas: class struggle and control of the means of production. Only class struggle concerns us here. Class struggle is the idea that there are two classes: the exploiter class, known as the bourgeois, and the exploited class, known as the proletariat. The exploited work for wages and are also known as the workers. Classic Marxism says that these two classes are engaged in a titanic struggle for supremacy, which will be decided through class struggle, and it will end with a classless society. Imagine two big blocks of concrete, each grinding against the other. The resulting friction will end in each block of concrete being reduced to little more than dust and pebbles. From such things, a communist society will be created. What does this have to do with homosexuals having special laws to protect them? The original class struggle was between two social classes, between the rich and the poor. To aid that, communists sought to influence people who were not communists, socialists and liberals being prime targets. They sought to make them support communist ideals by cloaking them as general principles. This goes back at least to the 1870s, but picked up pace after the 1917 revolution in Russia. Once the Soviet Union existed, support was forthcoming. Money, training, leadership could all be provided, and was. The aim was to introduce by stealth programs that supported a communist future. One idea was to get liberals to support the idea of class struggle. By the 1950s, it was. However, something else happened that the communists did not expect. Just as they influenced liberalism, liberalism influenced communism. Today you will rarely meet a real Marxist, although you will often encounter Marxist thinking. Identity politics is what you get when you cross communist class struggle with liberalism. Instead of being the economic struggle that classical Marxism wanted, you instead get a cultural struggle. Here, different cultures struggle and in time will result in a classless society. Not a communist utopia, but a liberal utopia. Because liberalism, like communism, believes in an end time where liberalism will rule supreme and each person will be fully human, completely autonomous, completely self-made, completely free to make themselves in any way that they so desire. But before we can arrive at that destination, we need to go through the struggle. Everyone must be made equal, no matter what it costs or who it hurts. The class struggle in classical Marxism says that the exploiters were always wrong. They were corrupted by their class status, and no matter what they said or did, that did not change the fact that they were exploiters. In reverse, the exploiters were always victims. Anything they did to fight back against their exploitation was justified. Anything. Now look at our current situation, where certain groups get special protection and can do no wrong. Here is class struggle for all to see. Who is the modern exploiter class? Whites are the exploiter class. Christians are the exploiter class. Men are the exploiter class. Because in the 1950s, when the idea of class struggle was finally accepted by liberal intellectuals and thinkers, whites were the dominant group with most of the wealth. Christians were the dominant group with most of the wealth. men were the dominant group with most of the wealth. In the 1970s, being heterosexual also became an exploiter class. They were the exploiters who achieved their position by violence and deceit, and no other answer is acceptable. The logic of class struggle means that the exploiter class must be destroyed. It is the only way to achieve equality and a liberal utopia. As they are not white, Christian, or men, everyone else is being exploited. They must be protected from the exploiters. Nothing the exploiter class says or does changes the fact that they are the exploiters. That means that the exploited have every right to fight back and to be accepted and supported in their struggle. Muslim rape gangs are the victims. Remember that the white girls they rape are the exploiters. Women are always right because men are always the exploiters. Homosexuals and the transgendered are the exploited class. They need protection from their heterosexual exploiters. And on it goes. It's totally and utterly mad. It always was, and it always will be.